4 consecutive road wins for this team. Now you get to go back out on the road once more to Kent State for the final regular season time. Walk us through final thoughts on Akron and now getting ready for Kent State.
Yeah, well, we had the bye, if that's what you want to call it, and I think that we, used that well. We needed it, regardless of what had happened at Toledo. Just a really long stretch, and physically our guys really needed it. And then I think just mentally and emotionally it was good for all of us, even though, coaches were still working. The guys, had to change a schedule, and sometimes a change of schedule can work as effectively as, actual time off. And we knew Akron was going to be a good football team, and again, we were right, and battled. We didn't feel great about how, we finished in the second half, but there were parts of that game that we feel really good about. We took the ball away, put the ball on the ground more than we have, lost it once, which is one too many. But that's something we've really been harping on. We lost that the first 7 games, and I think now we've won it three times in a row, and it's critical. It's critical.
Coach, you guys won 4 road games for the first time since 1955, and I know you're in the heat of the season, and maybe you don't think about those type of stats, but as you think about it right now, what does that mean to you? You guys have been so successful on the road and done something at this university that hasn't been done in decades.
Well, you want to win them all. There's 2 ways of looking at it. We're not excited about our home record,
right.
At this point. That's got to improve. We love playing here. We love being here. I love when the whole team can experience it. It still bothers me that, that the whole team can't be a part of half the games. It'll be that way till the day I die. I think our guys have a great focus, we know how to travel. I just say it pretty simply in the very beginning because there's some exciting trips and all that kind of stuff, and I just know from experience that when everything that we're thinking about and doing is at least in the back of our mind, because you don't need to bang your head against the wall on Friday afternoon, is about the game, whatever time that game's being played on that next day. Then we go through our process, and again, it's not banging our head against the wall, for 48 hours before the game. We go through our process. But I think that's just part of our makeup, us being together, being in a place, somebody else's home, and just really coming together and playing super hard. So it's just a double-edged deal because we haven't played as well at home.
So here we go again. You're at Kent State. What worries you about this Kent State team?
Well, I got to see them play, the other night, and they've obviously hit their groove. Played and soundly beat, a good Bowling Green team. Their offense is always, under Coach Lewis, has always been just really explosive, and continues to be. They've got a really good offensive line, a new quarterback, but they've gained arm strength, with him. Their running game is probably the best that it's ever been, and it's really good. And then they continue to have guys on the outside who can really, really run. And, they just, explosive plays are not what they live on, because they can run the ball very effectively, but you're always threatened by, their ability to have an explosive play. And of course they use tempo. So you've got to be sharp. And then they've made a change in the off season defensively, or even at the end of last season. And I think that they're I don't want to say this is not a comparison and all that, but they're playing good defense, and it looks different than what it had been, different scheme in terms of that. And again, just the other night they held Bowling Green to 6 points.
Right. You mentioned running game. Samson continues to move up the all-time touchdowns listed at this university, and it seems pretty clear that he's probably going to be the record holder by the time he's done here. If you would you talk a little bit about him and what makes him so effective at getting in the end zone?
Well, there's lots of things. We somewhat jokingly talk about 13 Samson. You know, he's our goal line and short yardage, you know, wildcat back and whatnot. Does that so well, just, you know, so, you know, we've had a number of assists from wide receivers that, you know, have gone down on the 5, 4, or 3 yard line, and then we bring in 13 Samson, and he finishes it and cleans it up. So that's a small part of it. He's really good. He's hard to tackle. You know, if something's blocked for 3, he's got a way to get 5. You know, and if it's blocked for 7, you know, he finds a way to get 10. He's faster than people think. He runs behind his pads. He's super smart. You know, it's very rare that he's not hitting in the right spot, you know, as he's reading the zones. And plays really hard. And he's not a real loud, you know, personality or voice or anything like that, but you know, he's one of those guys where the fire burns, you know, deep and inside, and he's super competitive. So he's just a good player, you know, with a good offensive line, and we try to keep people honest and spread out, you know, in our offense. And so I know that we're at our best when he's rolling, and then you've got Jalen and those other guys who can, you know, offset him and a little change of pace.
Other people online. I wanted to ask you too. The offensive line goes along with it too. You guys got great push. It's maybe the first game I can remember where the running back could drop the ball, almost not break stride, pick it up, and there was still a massive hole there. It was off the left side. Your offensive line did a great job against Akron. Yeah,
they did. We got some movement. That play in particular there on a 3rd down, that's not how we want to end up executing it. But you know, there was some space there for him to bounce the ball off the turf, pick it up, and continue to go.
Can you talk about Austin Smith and his growth over the course of the season, and how happy you are with how he's reading defenses? Is he pulling the ball as much as you want him to? Is he giving it to 13 Samson as much as he should? How have you felt with his growth, especially over the last couple of games?
Yeah, I mean, Austin is just a really cool cat. You know, he so with coming into the Arizona State game and then starting and then playing some but not starting and now starting, he just hasn't changed much. And I mean that in a very complimentary way. You know, he's not an emotional roller coaster at all. I think he's got a really, you know, cool confidence, you know, about him, a real confidence. But he's taken all of this in stride. I mean, when he came here, however long ago, it's his redshirt freshman year, he came in January. He came here to, you know, he came in January because he wanted to start, you know, that first fall. And he is going to absolutely continue to get better and better. In terms of, you know, running the ball more, he doesn't miss, you know, many reads. There are times, and I think that the more reps, the more experience that he gets, he's going to, and as games progress, he'll have, you know, more of an awareness of, again, a DNA read where, you know, if the defensive end is not a twitchy athlete and it's sort of a 50-50 where he can quickly surmise whether, hey, look, I mean, I can outrun this guy, even though the read might be an either or.
Right.
And then there's guys that you go against or that, you know, are super twitchy and really good athletes where, you know, you're going to hand the ball off on that. So, there's maybe a couple that he could have kept the last play of the game before we went to what we call British playing football, taking a knee. Yeah. You know, if he had pulled that, you know, he probably would have scored. But it's also, hey, it was a first down, go down. hand the ball off. Samson does a great job getting the first down with all the blocking, of course, and then went down in the field of play and able to run the clock out. So still a kind of a wise decision to hand the ball off in that.
Coach, I want to ask you about how you address penalties, specifically ones that extended drives. You had a guy over the center on a kick play. You guys had a personal foul that extended a drive. How do you coach that out, or how do you address that with your team so it doesn't put you guys in those type of positions where the other team is extending drives or it's working against you?
It's a good question. Unfortunately, I addressed it in the locker room after the game. It was not a real celebratory locker room. We're bowl eligible and all of those things, but it was not a celebratory, locker room. My message to the guys then, and this doesn't change, is when the team, decides that they want to change something, it absolutely changes. Now, our job as coaches is to get them, to change. There's lots of ways of doing that. I mean, you can threaten them, you can run them, you can do up downs, you can not play them, you can, you can do all those things. And shoot, we do those things. And then there's also, you grow leaders. You grow guys that, they want to be successful as much as any of us. And so, it's a conversation, about you guys, the leadership and whatnot. You have the ability to change this. So the unsportsmanlike is unacceptable. What does that mean? Don't kick him out of the program.
Right.
But
is there a conversation like, obviously you got to control your emotions. I mean, you want your players to play full of emotion, and I realize sometimes young guys, it's hard to rein that in a little bit. And I guess my question was kind of just like, yeah, you can coach to a certain point, but you kind of answered the question. Like, until you decide you don't want to do that, then it's still part of the game, I guess.
I think that's a huge piece. And I would also say that, the emotion can be part of the problem. I think I've learned that you want players in a team to play with passion over emotion. So I think those are different.
Final question for me. I know you guys aren't going to make it to Detroit, and I know that you guys were upset about that. You could still win 8 games, which hasn't happened here since 1987. You guys can still win the Michigan MAC. I know you're taking it 1 week at a time, but do you address in team meetings and still putting out like, listen, we're still going to a bowl game. We haven't won one since '87. We could still win 8 games. We haven't done that since 1987. And we could bring a trophy home in the Michigan MAC that shows we're the best in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, there are times throughout the season. I think you got to be really careful with that. So it's not every,
right,
Sunday or day after the game. But I mean, just goal setting and all of those things and vision casting. I think that it's wise to cast a vision in the very beginning to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And then it's all about, on a daily basis, focusing on the things that are going to get you there, right? So now, once you cast a vision, vision leaks. It's like a slow drip. So if we're talking about that on July 31st or August 1st, whatever it is, or back in February, the moment that you set the vision or the goal and make it crystal clear and everybody understands it and let's go, and then we start focusing on the day-to-day, that vision leaks. And so I believe that there are times where it is not only appropriate but necessary, to say, yes, we are still focused on 1-0 in the day-to-day, but let's, take a moment here just to look big picture and understand what is still in front of us. And so we took a couple minutes to do that the other day, and there's a ton to play for. And the disappointment and not going to Detroit was deep and real. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Thank you, Coach.
Our two student athletes that are here with us today, Chase has been here before, but Jere's first time in the room with us. He's worked himself into being a starting tight end this year. What has he meant to this program?
Yeah, we love Jere. You know, he's a great fit for our program. You know, he plays both our Y and our H, and you know, the way that we talk about him as a football player is he's as tough as a guy as we have. He's very physical. He just enjoys the contact. I mean, he's seemingly always up for, you know, one of our weekly Hammer Awards for the, you know, best, most legal, but, you know, physical block. Is quiet, just one of those guys, really smart, high football IQ, doesn't bring attention to himself, just works really hard, and is just a tough physical guy. I mean, that's guys that you want on your football team, and is playing really well and has a really bright future.
Chase bounces back from a game against Toledo where he didn't have as many tackles as he normally does. Had picked up his first sack. What's his play as of late meant as well?
Yeah, well, you know, Chase was part of that group. If you go all the way back to Ball State, you know, where such an important game, you know, on our schedule, and you know, he was one of our two defensive captains that were out with injury, and learned a lot about him, and so did our football team, you know, that entire week, you know, when he wasn't able to play, and you know, how are you going to respond to that, and how are you going to be a leader, and how much of the team is going to come before your, you know, disappointment of not playing and whatnot, and just super proud of that whole group of guys that it was a large group, you know, that weren't able to play, and just a really big game and win for us. And like this last week, you know, I mean, it was, I think, 30 minutes from home, you know, which, you know, is pretty special. We're going back, you know, to the same hotel this week, and to play Kent. They're so close to each other. But Chase, you know, brings an intensity, and not just on the field. Like, you know, some people are just intense people. Like, one of the words that I would use to describe him, very serious, you know, about football and about being great. And it's been really good fit on our team and in our program.
Perfect. Thanks, Coach. Who would like to go first?
All right, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Air check.
Put some gel in, yeah. It's getting a little long.
All right, Tom, you're good to go.
Chase, Coach said, you know, it wasn't overly celebratory locker room after that win. I guess my question would be why? You guys aren't bowl eligible, you did win the game, but why was it a little more toned down than usual?
I think we didn't play up to our standard, the way that we wanted to, the way that we want to perform. We put a lot into it in the weeks, we do a lot of work, and we go out there to perform and to play at our best, and we just felt in the second half we let off the gas a little bit and we didn't perform at our best, so that's disappointing. But you know, being bowl eligible, winning the sixth game is very important, very critical for a team, and we are happy about that. But we just feel that there's more to do.
I want to talk a little bit too about Joe Sparacio, who plays next to you up there. I'm worried about him being able to walk when the season's over, because he really plays with this kind of reckless attitude out there. He really has no regard for his body, does he?
No, he does not. He runs around, he hits hard, and he's a good buddy to have out there. I love playing with him.
Chase, what have you seen out of this Kent State offense that's going to be a challenge for you guys?
They run tempo, which is fast, and that's always a challenge. It brings like a whole new thing to the game, and then they got a good running back, and Kent's always had a good team, a good offensive scheme, so I'm just excited to play against them, excited to play against talent, and like Coach said, I'm pretty close to home, so hopefully I got a lot of fans in the green out there.
I talked to Coach about emotion and the penalties that extended drives. You as a captain, have you addressed that with the defense? Because there were really some penalties there that put you guys behind the eight ball and made this a much closer game than it needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I addressed it right away, right when it happened, and we're going to keep working on it. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot, you know what I mean? We're playing good defense and then 15 yards. We can't do things like that, but there's a maturing aspect to it, and there's a learning curve. You know, some of those penalties weren't atrociously, disgusting, flagrant penalties. They were just, hey, don't look at their sideline while you're celebrating a good play or things like that. So, it's a learning process, and that's what we're doing. We got to get better at it, and we will.
You're an emotional guy out there too. Is it hard for you as well?
You play the game at a fine line. It's a violent game, and you really want to. You put a lot of passion in it. Like I said, you put a lot in the week to have the game go well. So, but it's a fine line. You need to learn the fine line and dance around it. You got to be smart and not cost your team.
You guys still have a lot to play for. I know you're not going to Detroit to play for the MAC title, and you probably heard me address the question. There's a lot of things that haven't happened here since this school was the Eastern Michigan Hurons in 1987.
Yeah.
8 games, win a bowl game. You guys can win this 5th road game and do something that no team here has ever done. How much of that is discussed over the course of the week as you go through these last 2 games in relation to just getting ready for Kent State?
Yeah, obviously that's the main priority. Take a 1-0 approach. You want to just beat Kent State, but there is a lot to play for. But every week there's a lot to play for. No matter what your record is, it's an extreme opportunity. Like you were saying earlier, I missed a game this year, and then Toledo, I came back I was injured. I came back to play because I wanted to win the game, and so, every game's an opportunity, every snap's an opportunity, and that's what I came here to do, is take the best and take advantage of my opportunity. So we do have a lot to play for, and that stuff is all awesome, and I would love to do all that. But what's important is that we do take the 1-0 approach, and I'm looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to the next one, and then I'm looking forward to a great bowl game, and I want to win those games.
How often do you get the opportunity to try and cover Jere in practice, and how difficult is he to track down on a route?
Jere's very good. He's a very physical player, and we've definitely had our battles, and we will continue to. And he's a good player.
All right, thanks, Chase.
No problem. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Good luck out there on Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you.
A lot of matches in practice.
Yeah, good match.
That's just.
Appreciate you.
Jere, could you talk a little bit about this offense and what it's like been under Austin Smith? Obviously, you guys, you've played with 2 different quarterbacks, and Austin Smith has really moved into that starter role now, but just how the offense is performing at this point of the season.
I mean, yeah, Austin's a great quarterback. He gives us a lot of different variety on the offense. We'll a lot of pull it a lot more and get around the edge. It kind of helps the tight ends a lot in the blocking scheme. Instead of coming down, we're allowed to get out, block on the edge, and really get things going with Austin out there.
What's it like playing with this offensive line? There's a lot of experienced guys in there. This is a really good offensive line for Eastern Michigan. When you're down in the trenches with them, what's it like playing with those guys?
Oh, it's great playing with those guys. They know what they're doing. They know who to block. If you have a question right next to them, you'll be like, hey, who are we going to? They'll give you the answer, and then we're just out there. We're executing all the time.
Were you a good blocker in high school?
I was. Pretty much that's all I did. I played a tackle for most of high school, and then my last 2 years I transitioned to tight end, and then kind of stuck with that.
Talk about Polska and Oaks and those guys, and how you guys kind of operate as a unit there, and kind of what your relationship is with those guys.
Yeah, it's a brotherhood. Like we're hanging out all the time outside of this. We're always hanging out at the hotels before the games, and we all bring a different aspect of our game into the tight end room, and we can all execute together.
You spend a lot of time with your hand in the dirt. Is it weird when you line up in that slot position out there and you kind of have free release? Does it feel a little different out there?
Yeah, it was fun this week. I got out there a little bit, and it's kind of, they think I'm coming into the box, and then when I don't come into the box, it's they're not expecting me to get out there, so it's pretty fun.
Jere, what have you seen out of this Kent State defense? What's going to be the challenge for you guys offensively in this game Wednesday night?
By the looks of it, their D-line's pretty quick, and they do a lot of slanting and moving around up front, which is it's how you stop the run. But we're going to do a good job zoning through and double teaming.
Could you talk a little bit about Samson Evans and why he's so good at what he does?
Samson, he's a great guy, and he's just a hard-nosed football player. He just puts his head down, and he just keeps battling, keeps driving his feet, doesn't stop, doesn't quit on the team, and just gives it all every play.
I asked Chase, too, about kind of the long-term goals for this team as far as doing things that haven't been done here in decades. What would that mean to you to win a fifth road game, to win 8 games in a season? Hasn't been done since '87.
I think it'd be great. As a kid from Michigan, I really grew up with really not knowing much about Eastern Michigan, and just having like the outlook of like people in the community be like, oh, Eastern Michigan. But I really want to set that narrative that like Eastern Michigan is that team in Michigan.
What drew you to the program?
Just the family aspect. Like you could feel it as soon as you step foot in the locker room, hung out with the guys. Like everybody's here for a reason. Everybody wants to get it done here.
I talked to Taylor Powell's parents. They said the same thing. Like every school sells it's a family atmosphere, but they said at Eastern Michigan it seems it's an actual thing. This actually is a family, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. It's really weird because you hear everybody, like even I have friends who play at different schools and they're like, oh, it's a family atmosphere, but like it's here. Like you have deep connections with everybody on the team, offense, defense, special teams, the coaches even. It's really great.
How many times a game do you get in Austin's ear and say, I'm open?
I got in his ear a little bit on a clear route this last game. I was like, oh, throw it to me deep on this thing. And he's like, are you really open? And I was like, yeah, I'm there.
It seemed like the passing game did open up a little bit more this week because the previous week it seemed like passing the ball was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what changed for you guys, but it seemed like you guys were able to throw the ball around a little bit better than you had in previous weeks.
Yeah, I think it was more the defensive matchup. We got more zone looks this week than we did last week, and we just found the right holes and we got in the right place.
Why are you guys so good in the red zone?
13 Samson. Like it really is. We just get up there and we know how important it is to run the ball in the red zone, and that just gets us going. And we really block. We might even block even harder in the red zone just because we know we're just get in the end zone. We got Samson back there giving the ball, and he'll run us in.
What's the 13 part of that? The 13.
So it's the personnel. So
Gotcha.
Yep.
One back, 3 tight ends.
Yep.
13 Samson. Got it. All right. Thanks, Jere.
Thank you.